So I'm beyond annoyed this morning already.
That didn't take long. What, 4 seconds into the podcast?
Oh, okay.
You're already annoyed?
Oh, no, now it's working. You know, my fight with Rumble over if you schedule more than one podcast on Rumble at a time, whether or not you put in the times or not, it decides whether or not it's going to play the right one. So I had to literally go in and delete the one that I had set up for Gabe Woolley for this afternoon because it did not want to function.
So basically, Jenny, what you're telling us is a multi-million-dollar media company cannot multitask at the level of Jenny White. Is that what you're telling us?
Well, yeah.
Okay. Just want to get that clear.
Oh my goodness. Honestly, that...
Hey, I liked your breaking news with Sandra and Robbie.
So shall we play a little bit from the breaking news yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay, give me 1 second to find it because I was too busy grousing about Rumble to get it done. So, all right, are you ready?
Ready.
Okay, here it comes. Hold on 1 second. All right.
The chair sees a quorum. The Energy Committee will come to order. Little housekeeping, unless you got press credentials, there'll be no video on. This is online, so you can get your video there.
Wow.
And welcome to Tyranny, Oklahoma. Step right up.
Credentials.
Okay, so it gets worse. Are you ready? Okay, so I actually have a friend who works in the legislature who will remain unnamed.
Anonymous.
Who told me how to get press credentials. So I emailed this. It is credentials@oklegislature.gov. So I emailed, and here's what I said. So I'm just going to read these all to us today. I'm interested in applying for press credentials. May I please have an application? Thank you, Jenny White, Rope Report, rope2.org. Thane Conriot. Good morning, Jenny. Thank you for your interest, but I regret to inform you that your request for press credentials has been declined by the legislature. Sincerely, Thane.
Wow. So the legislature gets to decide who gets press credentials. Wow.
So you picked up on exactly the same thing that I did, which was okay. So hold on 1 second. So you know me. Thank you for letting me know. Could you please explain why so that I may correct the issue? Jenny, all requests for press credentials go through the communication departments of both the House and Senate. If an organization, individual appears through initial discovery to be an established reporter and or news organization, the process continues. The response I received from the legislature is that they did not believe that you meet the requirements for press credentials. I will include the referenced segment below, so I shall read the reference segment. Quote, Journalists eligible to apply for a media credential must be a bona fide resident correspondent of reputable standing, giving their chief attention to the gathering and reporting of news. Applicants must be employed by newspapers, periodicals, online, television, radio, or other news services, hereinafter news organizations that regularly publish in any medium news concerning Oklahoma state government. The news organization, maybe I should change the voice. The news organization must engage in coverage of Oklahoma state government on a continuing basis. Credentialed news organizations must be owned and operated independently of any industry institution, association, or lobbying organization. Credentialed organizations shall not engage in legislative or executive lobbying as defined by the Oklahoma Ethics Commission, with the exception of activities through the Oklahoma Press Association or Oklahoma Association of Broadcasters. Thank you for your interest, though, and have a good weekend. Thane. My follow-up email. I truly appreciate your response. It was very helpful in understanding the process. So, if I went through the Oklahoma Press Association's process to obtain a press credential, would that still not be sufficient? Also, when you say legislature, that's a body of individuals. Are all the seated elected membership polled to make that determination? Honestly, I'm not trying to be argumentative, just seeking clarification. Thank you again.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you're not in favor with the Good Old Boys Club. That's what it sounds like to
Larry
me.
says freedom from case. And then Lisa says they're literally just describing rope. Gracie said, I noticed they rejected you quickly. Oh, Gracie, within moments. How often does the government move on anything?
My God, don't let Jenny White in this room, no matter what you do.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's just all kinds of good morning, Terry. Just so many. I don't want to keep Jim out there waiting in the wings. So I'm sorry. I'm going to say Representative Shaw because he's an elected official.
Yeah, you got to get that NPR voice in there. That's always the
I know,
most
I do. Well, we have to be
authoritative.
We have to be a credentialed news organization in order to be accepted by the Oklahoma legislature. So maybe we should all start talking in our NPR voice.
Jenny, you just don't have the Good Old Boys certification behind your name.
So maybe what I should have done is what Grant Green said and just said, y'all had no reason to be in here. Wasn't that basically what he said? Okay, so I'm going to bring in Representative Shaw. Good morning to you. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Jenny and Michael. Thank you so much for having me this morning. I tried really hard to do an NPR voice and it was terrible. So well done.
Pretty good.
I've just been sitting here laughing the whole intro. So thank you for that. And we're just starting.
So, but here's the problem. I mean, we're all kind of laughing, but is it because it's funny or is it because we're so absolutely freaked out that we're now under a tyrannical regime that we can't figure out what else to say?
That's probably more accurate. I mean, it honestly would be kind of fun and funny if the decisions that are being made in that building and like what we saw yesterday didn't have significant impact on the way we live our lives every single day. That's the harsh reality of it, and it's infuriating.
Well, I'm pretty sure, but you were elected to serve in what colloquially is called, now correct me if I'm wrong, somebody out there, we've got a ton of people on this morning, correct me if I'm wrong, the People's House. I mean, isn't that what it's called?
Sounds accurate. Although, go ahead.
So now we get to pick and choose who's people?
Apparently so.
So I don't like you people, but I like you people.
Hey, they should have charged admission to that committee hearing yesterday. Honestly, I mean the theater in there was pretty solid, so that was worth admission.
So I don't want to take up the whole time talking about this because the main story and the reason why we wanted to talk to you is because nobody's going to cover your story. There is no news outlet that is going to cover your story. None of the people.
Credential news outlet, Jenny.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Reputable and in good standing.
Yeah.
So, and Dakota says the people's house only if you, the people, the people's house, it just changed with the people, definitely not we, the people. So really, in all honesty, I mean, the reason why we wanted to have you on is because no credentialed press organization or whatever they're trying to say is going to tell your story. So I would just like you to briefly tell us your story about, I'm not getting this to work, Michael. Can you make this work? There, I did it. So all I had to do was ask you and it was magic.
Yeah.
So tell us the story of your legislative session so far.
How much time do we have? I mean, you got Gabe coming on at 1, right? So are we good from now until then?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm always up for a marathon news session. Because I'm not credentialed media.
Right. Yeah. So you're not bound by the regulations of credentialed media. So that's a good thing, right?
So we're with you.
Okay. This session started off with some fireworks and really just kind of continued to devolve maybe into levels that everybody always kind of talks about. And there's, the stigma that comes with politics and politicians in the building. And I mean, most of what everybody thinks is true is pretty spot on and probably quite a bit worse than what most people want to believe. I mean, what we're seeing, like what we saw yesterday, and we've talked about this before, the way that building operates, and like any business, I mean, you guys have owned businesses. Michael, you've got a business, like you live and die by rules and process and procedure within your business, right? And it's in a way not so much different inside the Capitol. I mean, they live and die by the process and procedure that they put in place, right? And so there's an appearance that rules are there to protect the minority, right? Because without rules, it would be just flat out tyranny
of the majority,
right? But at the same time, there's enough escape valves and contingency planning within those rules where you can pull strings at any point in time to get whatever you want accomplished. And so we've seen that, repeated throughout this legislative session. And, we've talked about legislation that's not being heard. We've talked about legislation that is being heard. I've preached about how there are bills that will fly through committee and fly through the floor and don't get questioned and pass, with a couple of seconds of the gavel, and it's good to go.
Do pass.
Yeah, exactly. Do pass, second, done, and we're on to the next one. But yet we'll spend an hour and 15 minutes debating about shopping carts on the floor, or something else, just complete insanity. And it's that's honestly been interesting and somewhat entertaining to watch. But no, this session, obviously being my first session, I don't have anything personally to relate it to in the past, but it is quite an interesting place.
So for those of you who are on this morning that do not know, the very first thing that happened to our honorable representative was that on organizational day, he attempted to make an adjustment to the House rules that were going to be voted on to run the House for the session. And instead of anybody attempting to give forbearance to our good representative as a new representative, incoming representative elected by the people, he was summarily dismissed and treated and literally bullied by Representative Kennedy on the floor. And this is Representative Kennedy, who was happy to tell people in 2016 that he got money together to help oust the conservatives that were in the House at that time because they were mucking up the works for the rest of them. I'm just paraphrasing. You can go look it up. It's all out there on the web. So I'm not inventing anything. And he was just, and Representative Kennedy has been made, this is a new role that was just created by the youngest Speaker of the House, Kyle Hilbert, this session. So Representative Kennedy, who is also an attorney, has now been made the personal attorney of the Speaker, not of Kyle Hilbert himself, but of the Speaker. And so I assume it was in that context that the good representative treated you so, responded to you so vociferously, let's say, during the beginning of the opening session. And for those who don't know, Representative Shaw's district elected Representative Shaw over the man who was Kevin Wallace, who was the seated chair of the Appropriations Committee in the House. So that's just some background on it. Now, how many bills have you gotten heard this session?
0. Yeah. No, not even one of them were heard in committee. And this kind of transitions into another item. Like, I mean, I went to every committee chair, tried to talk to them about the bill. They said they wouldn't hear it. I offered to be receptive of feedback. Is there anything that you would change in the bill? Any language that you would change, an amendment that would cause you to hear it? Absolutely. No, none of them were willing to compromise at all on the decision. And we're talking about committee chairs and those in leadership or what have you are in positions of authority on topics that they're sometimes not necessarily the subject matter expert on, right? So we've got folks that are leading the processing of bills in a particular sector, industry, or what have you, that don't really have a lot of background in that area. You can make the argument that there's good debate there if you've got subject matter experts and then third parties that aren't as familiar with it. So you get some, both sides of the same story, what have you. But anyways, it is interesting to see where they put people and in what places they put them.
So I think what we're both saying, and I'm not going to put the onus on you, I think what we're both saying is there's very little interest in debate in the People's House.
Only when it's convenient for a specific purpose. But yes, you're right. Or
I don't want to get to the point where I'm so, and none of us can. I mean, we've got a huge audience on this morning. None of us can be so angry that we decide that we're going to check out. And this isn't something I mean, what's happened is that over time, we've neglected to keep the republic. I mean, we've done exactly what Franklin admonished the woman on the street to do. We have neglected to keep the republic. We've had other things to do. We have been too busy to do something like that. Now, this is what we've got, because tyrants will always tyrant. That's who they are. The only reason tyrants don't tyrant is because the people rise up and water the tree of liberty. We haven't been doing that. And I mean, watering the tree of liberty is doing what Sandra Trawick did yesterday, which is just being present in the committee room, taking a photo, right? That's all she was doing. And yet she wasn't kicked out. And I want to make that clear. She was not kicked out. She was just denied re-entry when she left. So weren't you in that committee meeting? Did you?
I was in there to hear House Bill 2751 get presented and debated and voted on. So I was in the room. There were, half a dozen of we the people in the room, but by the last count that I saw, there were at least 12 wind lobbyists in the room, more out in the hall. And some of those in the room had never once attended a Senate Energy Committee meeting at all. The amount of effort and the increase in intensity that wind lobby initiated in the last few weeks leading into this vote was astronomical. So it showed in a big way in that room yesterday.
That I don't remember Chairman Green saying anything specifically about lobbyists. We were just all told that we could find this online. Hold on one second. Marvin Goodman has something to say, and I want to throw and everybody, I will get to all of your comments. I do. Just give us a second to flesh some of this out. But I want to read what Marvin said. Oklahoma's HB 1453, a conservative vision halted by pragmatic gatekeeping. Hal Collin-Dewell's committee stymied Jim Shaw's land protection plan. This is probably Marvin's Substack for today. He will be on next month, so don't worry. We will get him to do that. But so I believe, Marvin, what you're telling us is that what we're talking about today, this morning, with the good representative is not abnormal, is what I believe that you're trying to say to me.
I was going to mention real quick, Jenny. Marvin just wrote an article literally about what was it? Herbert's the guy that wrote Dune about
Frank Herbert.
Yeah, about Frank Herbert's his prediction about how power attracts these kind of psychopathic people. Really that and that's what we see. But that article is fantastic.
So I was correct. That was what Marvin was trying to tell us. So you were in, and you and there were all these lobbyists in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do want to point out something, because Sandra pointed this out. I watched the entire video yesterday as I was preparing the clips that I've made, and I want to make a point. I made so many notes that I'm having trouble seeing which note I made. I believe it was at 11:49:32. You can hear Senator Green from the chair admonish a private citizen for videotape. He thought she was videotaping after he asked her not to do so. And you can hear an elected representative, the chair of that committee, on the video. You can hear him admonish and basically threaten her. I said not to take video, which sounds like a threat to me. I mean, so I do believe, and we've been told numerous times, the Senate, and you just alluded to this, the Senate makes their own rules. So when Mrs. Trawick was not allowed back in the room, she asked the sergeant at arms, why can't I come back in? And the sergeant of arms looked through his rule book, at which point he couldn't find a rule saying why she couldn't come back in, because she was not making a disturbance. She was just doing this. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Well, in if I could pause real quick, compare and contrast what happened yesterday and how Senator Green approached from the very beginning of that meeting to the Government Oversight Committee that I'm on in the House. We heard a very hot topic bill a week or two ago about the initiative referendum process. That committee room was packed. I mean, standing room only, just like the Senate one yesterday. Now, compare and contrast this with Representative Kevin West, who chairs that committee. He gavels in, says we're going to come to order. And he also, I don't know if he called it housekeeping rules, but he just advised everybody that there would be a certain level of decorum or order throughout the meeting. If there were any outbursts or anything that disrupted the proceedings, he would respectfully request people to go out, take the conversation outside. Which there's a big difference between just trying to maintain decorum and order and process during a meeting and telling somebody you can't take a picture. And so there were a couple of times in that meeting, in our meeting, that, he had to gavel a couple of times and ask people to either, be a little bit more quiet or zip it or take it outside. And that was respected. And that was a much different environment and room than what we saw yesterday. Yesterday, there was absolutely no reason to even start off that way, let alone have it proceed the way that it did.
Well,
I think
Jim, how many meetings have you been a part of where they just come right out in the very beginning and say no videotaping, just anything like that specifically?
I've never been in a committee meeting where the chair said no videotaping or no pictures, but the only time that I've been in a meeting where there was kind of this advanced warning of, hey, we're going to keep it under control, was that one time that I just referenced in the oversight, government oversight meeting with Representative West.
Well, and having been a mayor, I mean, because I presided over a couple of meetings that were pretty contentious when we had to raise the water rates, when we banned humanure. I mean, you can't, as a chair, your job for the people. Now that's for the people, not for me. My job for the people is to accomplish the meeting. And if I can't accomplish the meeting because of outbursts, then I absolutely have to say, no, we're not doing this. If you can't be nice, you're going to have to leave. My job for the people is to complete this meeting. Right? Anybody can understand that. I think I would hope that makes complete sense.
Well, and let's be honest.
This, however, is not an outburst.
Yeah, it's not. And let's be honest, that room was full of people. And 99% of the time when you're in those meetings, people are on their phones anyways, right? Everybody was on their phone. I've seen other pictures circulated of other people taking pictures in that meeting, right? And yet there was one individual / a group of people that were being targeted and accused of causing a disruption somehow.
So let me, if you don't mind, can we get some of these comments in? Because I think you're going to be interested in seeing what they are too. This is infuriating. They literally just described rope, but then decided to reject you anyway instantly. It's disturbing and a warning to us all. Okay, I was going to go there, but let's not. Lobbyist's house. Draining the swamp will make the swamp creatures mad. This case at hand is the perfect example. Representative Shaw, do you have siblings that would be willing to run for office?
I am an only child, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately. I don't know.
They broke the mold with you?
That is, yes, that is very sweet.
Yes, they put people on committee who know nothing about the topic at hand, so they're easily controlled and manipulated by lobbyists and industry. I've not heard many at our house that could out debate my 14-year-old nephew. Although I will say that Ali Seyfried, I thought, did an exemplary job on that bill, especially when you had Representative Casey Murdoch at 11:53:42 waxing eloquently on freedom. Representative Shaw, I'm not sure if you saw what I saw, but what I saw was Representative Casey Murdoch waxing eloquently about the freedom of business to screw over the people. It was all about the business. I'm not in the business of telling businesses they can't come here and do business. It's their right to do business. It's business. I never one time heard him say the two words together, the people. Never heard that. So freedom for Representative Casey Murdoch is, and I believe this is probably the case for many in the people's house today, is about, because as you said, there were more lobbyists than there were citizens in the meeting the other day. It's not about the freedom of the people. It's about the freedom of business. My goodness, if we don't understand that your children will never get gainful employment if we do not bring business to this state. And if we can't bring business to this state by giving them tax credits and taking the money out of your pocket and giving it to them, your children will suffer and die impoverished in a ditch by the side of the road that we can't do anything to fix the roads because we don't have the money, because we don't have business.
And let's be clear, it's not small business.
No.
It's big foreignly owned corporations that we're mostly worried about. And the hysterical thing about yesterday too, after he got off of his soapbox or whatever you want to call it,
the freedom soapbox.
Yes, the quote unquote freedom soapbox, and don't discriminate on my cows, as opposed to 700 foot industrial wind turbine. He turned right around and was the co-author on a solar and battery storage setback bill and voted for setbacks on solar, but yet spent half an hour debating about why setbacks are bad for wind.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was a huge issue. And I don't remember which legislator it was in the meeting, but somebody said, so Representative Murdoch, I just heard you argue against setbacks, but now they're okay. And he said,
I think it was Kern that asked him that.
What was it? And he said, yeah.
Oh,
thanks for letting us know.
And to be fair, the setbacks on 2751 for wind were incredibly better than the largely minuscule setbacks that are in place for solar with 2156 that they voted on right afterwards. So really it's the strength of the bill that causes the hypocrisy a little bit.
Well, and we need to have a discussion about land. Very informative meeting yesterday, and not because of the vote on the bill, really eye-opening to see how it's set up, who was in attendance, attitudes, much different than watching it on your computer screen. I was fully aware of backdoor deals, but the higher level was on full display. What a theater performance was in motion. And I do want to point that out. You alluded to this as well, but I want to bring it back up again. So many people have told me, they've been on my Facebook page, they've been on the Rope Facebook page. Well, the Senate sets the rules and that they get to decide. And the rules say that the chair gets to decide. Okay. All right. I can see that. But why would you, as you just pointed out with Rick West in the government committee the other day, why would you not want people in the people's house listening to anything? I mean, it just doesn't, it defies common sense, frankly. Yes, and she was publicly called out for taking a photo, but many people don't want the people there to hold them accountable, so they have to bully the people in an effort to keep them out, except they're in the people's house, which seems to be forgotten. And that's just one of the reasons they don't want anyone taking photos or videos. They don't want the people to know who and what is happening in the room. And so I wanted to stop here and say, during the solar setback bill, which happened right after the wind turbine bill, there was a kerfuffle in the room. Can you describe that since you were there?
So they presented House Bill 2156, the solar setback bill. It was presented. There was an amendment filed by Senator Jett, who wasn't in attendance. He had to leave early for a flight that he had to catch. So somebody, I think it was Senator Thompson, asked the question of what do we do with this amendment when the author's not here? To which the answer was provided, well, anybody else on the committee can take that amendment up if they would like. So Senator McIntosh said, I would like to, move the amendment. And then within a second after she did that, Senator Thompson said, move to table. I think Rader seconded. And immediately after that second, McIntosh said, roll call vote. So literally in the span of about 4.5 seconds, you had an amendment moved, you had it tabled and seconded, and then a request for a roll call vote or a recorded vote on that amendment, on the tabling motion. So then there was this argument of you can't do a recorded vote because the tabling and the second happened beforehand, which how does that even make any sense? You can't ask for a recorded vote on something that hasn't happened yet. So there was this confusion of the rules and how that was supposed to play out. And at that point, after they were trying to figure out which way was up and down and left and right, I decided to exit the room. My wife was there too. We were exiting the room at that point because I didn't know how long it was going to take them to figure out what they were doing wrong or right or what have you.
Okay. So I want to point out, would you like to know what happened to those of us who are watching the video? All audio was removed.
That's why they don't want you video recording in the room.
What?
So as soon as they push the button on those microphones and turn those microphones off, if you're watching the live stream online, yeah, you can't hear anything that's going on.
It wasn't just that one point. It was not even just that one point. But let me ask you, how important do you feel that deliberation on process, just deliberation on Senate committee process? How important would have that been for the people to hear? Yet we're told we can't videotape or take pictures in there because it's online. No, it was not online. No, it was not online. The audio was removed. And if you don't believe me, that's fine. I mean, I'm always saying, and Michael, you say the same thing too. Don't believe us. Go look this stuff up on your own. The only reason we do what we do is because most people don't want to look the stuff up on their own. So we look it up and then regurgitate it. But don't ever take my word for something because, oh my gosh, I was just wrong the other day on a podcast and somebody had to say, no, Jenny, that's not right. And I'm happy to accept that because I don't want to put out wrong information. I want to put out proper information. And if I'm wrong, I will say I'm wrong. I don't know how you can catch me on this, however, unless they change the video, which you can't recapture audio that isn't there. You can't just make it up. But the audio was missing for substantial parts of that particular committee meeting. So I don't see how you can possibly make the argument to me, well, it's online, as Senator Green did at the outset of that meeting. No videotaping or audio taping. I don't even remember the colloquialisms that he used, but he said you can do that because it was online. But what if it's not all online?
Because there's a big difference between, hey, I need a quick pause. I need to consult with staff. What do I say next? Or what's the next step, right? Like there's a big difference in that. And hey, we're going to spend the next 12.5 minutes of debating on whether the rule is right or wrong or what we're doing. That there's a very, very big difference there.
So this is a really good comment. And Laura, welcome to the program. I hope you stick with us and come back over and over again. We can't fight what we're not aware of. We can't fight what we're not aware of. I mean, I don't know how you can say anything better than that. She goes on to say McIntosh County hid the wind turbine projects from us and then denied knowing much about it. When it came to light, the people rose up. The people we elect are either corrupt, blackmailed, or just ignore it. Jim Shaw is a good guy, one of the very few. God bless you, Jim. But her point is 100%. And so I'm going to go back to you and ask Jim, to Laura's point, we can't fight what we're aware of. So if they turn off the audio and then we're told we can't videotape inside the meeting.
And herein lies some arguments that have been made against me throughout session, because I am pretty active on social media, going to various events and speaking and what have you. And I've been criticized as, well, just a keyboard warrior. All he wants is the clicks and the likes and the shares and all the things. And quite frankly, the ultimate reason why I'm doing that is to be as fully transparent as I possibly can to the people that I represent and anybody else who would care to observe as well. But that's what I promised the people that elected me throughout the campaign process, was honest, genuine, true representation. And when I drive the almost hour from home to the Capitol each morning, it's a black box in that building if you're not there, which, by the way, I would really, really encourage people. We are in the final stretch here. The next 2 weeks are going to be nothing but floor time for the House and the Senate. And these bills, the final movement of those is going to happen. So please do what you can to be in that building over the next couple of weeks. But that building acts as a vacuum, and it's a silo, and it's designed and it's operating under a way that's meant to put up this wall where the people have no idea what's going on. And so however I'm being criticized, honestly, it's really just to try to feed as much information and everything that's going on back home, so people fully understand when I come back to them and tell them, hey, this is what happened or didn't happen. It's not this huge surprise. They've seen it playing out, every day or every week throughout session.
Wow.
Trent Loose was on the other day, made me speechless like 3 times.
So I was actually going to bring that up. I listened to part of that, and my goal this morning was to make you speechless 4 times. So I'm struggling a little bit because now we're only one in so far, and we're so.
Yeah. Well, Jenny, a quick question for you, Jenny. Like you've watched a ton of these meetings online. I mean, do they always cut the audio every single time, or is this more deliberate, do you think, in this particular meeting?
No, I've watched it where, like, during a deliberation for a vote or something on the floor, they'll cut the microphone because it's just people walking around, chatting with each other. I mean, I've seen no, and that's a good question. And no, as many hours as I've watched online, it's not unheard of for them to remove the audio for some reason. Like, for example, if like what Representative Shaw just said about, if they have to confer with a member of staff about something, usually they do it without a microphone on because, but that wasn't what happened. It was, I don't think it was 12 minutes, Jim, but it was something like 6 or 8 minutes with the audio off.
Yeah,
when they did all of this stuff, which was about procedure. So procedure is important, right? So that's a good question, and I appreciate that. No, it's not unheard of for them to do that. But again, that begs the question, if it's not unheard of them to do that, why can't I be sitting there videotaping it so other people can hear what's going on too? If Senator Green was actually against wind turbines, as his flyers now claim, yeah, we've already got 2 in the mail. He's running a close second to Gettner Drummond. I've already gotten 3. Why would he start off his meeting with shutting down a no wind turbines Lincoln County, Oklahoma official video and save Oklahoma farms and ranches, the herd, who are staunchly against wind turbines? Why would you not want the people to see him champion this? Gosh, that's a good question. I'm not sure how we could answer that question. It's an important distinction that others were allowed back. Oh, that's a good point, Lisa. Others were allowed back into the room. Only Sandra was denied entry. Brooke, so good to see you on this morning. Getting more and more sick of representation. He forgets who that they work for us. This is absolutely across the country. It is absolutely across the country. And I'm going to stop, and I want to get your comments in. But one of the things that struck me as I was thinking about our conversation today, I think what happens, and you can see it in children will do this. If children get away with lying about something one time, they'll do it again. And if they get away with lying a second time, they'll do it again. By the third time, everything they say almost is a lie because nobody's ever stopped them, and a lie will get them what they want, right? A lie can produce the cookie, can get out of taking the swats for busting the lamp, right? We have allowed these people to get into a position of habitual belief that they are above us once they get into that building. And I was speaking with somebody just recently who was talking about caucus. Well, I really need to go with what caucus says. I was just upbraided, or we were all upbraided on social media by Representative Chris Banning for basically saying that, and what was his argument? Does anybody remember what his argument was? That you guys need to work together, right? You need to work together. And Jim, it's all your fault that your bills weren't heard because you were not going out there and glad handing and schmoozing with your representatives to make them like your bills. So, I don't know. I think we're going to have to get off of here because in retrospect, I think you're just doing a terrible job because you've not been schmoozing it up with these people and genuflecting and kissing their rings and asking for them to help with your legislation. So I guess since you're not playing the game, who did you go up to represent? Did you go up to represent the caucus?
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, Jenny, on top of everything you just said, not only do they go into that building, but they also create their own administrative state that overrules all of our regular, God-given rights. So they can literally do whatever they want.
They exempt themselves from all of the rules that we have to follow. In the Open Meetings, Open Records Act, it says right here, any person attending a public meeting may record the proceedings of said meeting by videotape or audio tape. I'm not making it up. Right here on page 17. Or by any other method, provided, however, such recording shall not interfere with the conduct of the meeting. So this is what Oklahoma open meetings law says. But the legislature gets to exempt themselves from that. Really? So there's an old saying, but for me, but not for thee.
And that's where you really see the heels getting dug in the vitriol and everything else. If you start messing with that part of the system, that's where the gloves really come off. And that's what we saw at the beginning of session.
So I think that's one thing, back to the caucus idea and, Chris Banning's comment about, well, I'm willing to help anybody, with their bills. Well, the thing is a caucus is antithetical to the entire process that we, the people, instituted for self-government, right? We don't go up there to hang out with our buddies. Good job, bud. Happy to help you with your bill. We're not interested in that. The
Yeah.
people that are elected by the people in their district. They answer to the district. They don't answer to lobbyists. They don't answer to their other buddies in the legislature. So this whole notion of caucus is antithetical to freedom and tyrannical at the same time. I mean, would you agree, or am I just off on the soapbox?
I mean, that's where I've tried to tell people, when I go to that building every day, I'm going to work, and I can work with anybody. I mean, I've had colleagues, I've had clients, I've had, what have you in the past in my business that I may not agree with personally or personality wise or anything like that, but I can still conduct business with people and work with somebody. And I feel like I've proven that throughout session, and even more so recently with some of the conversations that I've been a part of at the Capitol with some of these bills. And so I am absolutely willing to work with any other legislator in that building. But the trading and the demands of give me this and I'll give you that and all of that, completely backwards and off the table for me. That's not why I'm there. 1000%. I totally agree.
And like you said, and I think you did it very eloquently, we're not there to stiff arm everybody either,
No.
and say, I'm not working with you. You're not. We need to be polite and civil. There's no problem with that, but you can be polite and civil and stand your own ground. And I think of all of the people that I know, you and Gabe, I think Tom Gann is another excellent example of that. I think Kendall Sacchieri is. I think we've got a number of them up there that are really great examples of that. But I think what ends up happening is you get so bogged down in the I don't want to be the hammer and see everything as a nail. Mm-hmm. That then all of a sudden it becomes chummy, and then once it's chummy, it's I helped you with your bill, you get to help me with mine. I mean, and then all of a sudden we're in a place that is not we the people, it's we the group, and that's not it. So, Sandra, we all stand behind you wearing that new badge of honor that you never wanted. And that's true. Light shone in the darkness. And that's what and God's the best bringer of light and disinfectancy. Lobbyists are allowed to take photos, not citizens. How dare you take a picture of the government? The lobbyists were there to ensure that their bought and paid for minions did what the lobbyists had told them to do, and they did just that, and that's true. Where are business rights? Nan Clinton, can you find that for me? When you find that for me, will you come on and bring it so that everybody has a copy of that, so we can all shut up and sit down and be told what to do by our government? Freedom of the Chamber of Commerce. Amen. I think I'm going to get a flag. Exactly what I've been saying. Business over individuals. What they did to me yesterday was nothing compared to what they've done to Jim Shaw. Absolutely. You can't make this up if you wanted to. Disgusting. Can we do a bill requiring...
Well, I'm going to take credit for that, because that's now the second time that you've been speechless on the show, and only because I can speak and she can't right now. But
I just can't. That's okay. You can have that. That's two, but you're still one down.
I'm still one down. I'm working on it.
Actually, Becky, Murdoch is up, so he will not darken our doors except for next session, and then he's finished. These bills rarely show the dysfunction and the lack of any research. Oh, that is such a good point. But again, that goes back to what you were saying earlier too, though. And I hate to keep calling you Jim. I want to call you Representative Shaw, just to keep pinching them with it.
Yeah.
Representative Shaw. You alluded to that earlier, the fact that we get these chairmen for these committees that don't really know their committee, right? I mean, I guess Grant Green was put as chairman over energy because he had a business that was a propane business.
Perhaps.
I don't know. We need a law requiring meetings of committee, Senate, House be recorded and available to the public with no edits. Our own C-SPAN. I agree. I'm just not sure how that's going to happen. Wow, censorship at its best. And this is why we need to make our own recordings, which goes back to what we were talking about. I was going to say that they shut the sound off on the live stream all the time. I've always wondered what we're missing during those times. It would seem that the majority of our legislators are most concerned with greater good of their lobbyists. They do it all the time. Online version, much different than sitting in the room. I think that's and again, we're going to go back to the point that there were more lobbyists in the room than there were citizens during the time of that bill. Not only did Green stage that, he had to speak in a condescending tone and use the word housekeeping as though people were doing something wrong. Some other students and I had similar experiences at the Capitol last week as well. Oh, Trenton, are you a student? Oh, thank you for tuning in.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
Absolutely.
you. We're all giving you, well, I don't want to do that. High fives. Something real masculine. Good job. Some other students and I had similar experiences at the Capitol last week as well. There's a serious problem with leadership and the refusal to go on the record on the issues that mattered most to us. Thank you so much. Not only aware of, lied to. We can't fight what we're not aware of, and they're deliberately keeping information from us. If you are all aren't following Jim Shaw for state representative, you need to go do that now. Thank you, Jim Shaw, for warrioring. That's a tough one. Say that one.
Warrioring. I like it.
Warrioring. That's right, Denise. He is. No one knows you. No one who knows you believes that you're a keyboard warrior. Oklahoma became complacent, created a vacuum. Most politicians saw this and decided that they could get more power. It's working because most Oklahomans are still sleeping. Well, wake up. By the time they wake up, it's too late to walk things back. So Senator Pugh has just filed an SJR to prevent the new social studies standards being passed by and don't forget, he's probably going to run for state superintendent. So let's put that in our packet of knowledge, shall we? Make it illegal to turn off the microphone. It's an open meeting. They are deciding procedure on the fly with the mics off. Don't our elected reps have their crap together to do their jobs and represent their voters? Sandra, it's simply a person having two faces with a forked tongue. Catherine says, yes, yes, yes. You can lie to some people some of the time, but you can't lie to all of the people all the time. And I think that's but you know what? That's a good point, John. And I think part of the reason why they cut this off is because they know if they say one thing once, but then they can't remember what they said, but then they say something else and it's recorded and you can say, and that's not what you said the last time. I do think there's part of the reason why we have to do that. The way they treat us and speak to us like children is maddening. Absolutely. They make administrative rules in violation of direct law and Amber. And I know this partly because of the lawsuit I have against the state election board. See, they make these rules, but then they don't follow their own rules. So this is a problem. For too long, we've been too focused on the corruption. Thank you for saying that, Mr. Kester. I'm going to read it in my NPR voice. For too long, we've been too focused on the corruption in national politics to see that there is just as much corruption at the state and local levels. You are right. Now, focus here. Focus in your backyard. Now that we know this.
That's right.
And isn't it just Democrats? You know what? I don't know that that's necessarily true because you know this, Representative Shaw, that according to our friend Jason Murphy at Oklahoma State Capitol, who did the stats, more Democrat bills have been passed in the House under this new two-tiered legislative scheme than have been in the past. Has that been your experience?
I don't have anything to compare it to, but there were a surprisingly large number of Democrat bills that were getting passed and heard on the floor and passed on the floor.
And I don't have a problem. I mean, Democrats, honestly, I get really exhausted with this. Well, we're Republican. I get exhausted this. Government is for all of the people. I may not agree with you, but I am not going to get in your way of having access to your government. It's your
Right.
government too.
Right.
That's why we end up having government and why we should be debating in these committee meetings, because eventually once we debate it, the best idea or argument comes out on top. You can never be afraid or say, well, we're in the majority, we don't need to have the Democrats having. That's a lie. Government is for everybody. It's for everybody. But it doesn't seem right that with a majority, so all 77 counties voted for Trump, so a super majority, that we would have more Democrat bills passed than Republican bills.
And I mean, to be clear, there weren't more Democrat bills passed than Republican bills. That's inaccurate.
Okay,
but
thank you.
there was a large number of Democrat bills heard. And if you put that in contrast of some of the other really strong conservative bills that did not get the same treatment, then you've got a little bit of an imbalance, but total numbers, not so much.
Okay. I'm glad you corrected me on that. Unlike many states, Oklahoma's legislature is exempt from this is good information, Marvin. Thank you for sharing this. Granting the House of Representatives and Senate the authority to set their own rules for public attendance. This exemption, rooted in the state's constitution, allows each chamber to tailor access policies, resulting in a system that prioritizes legislative function while offering limited degrees of public participation. Marvin, in the Constitution?
In the Constitution, it says that the House and Senate have the ability to create their own rules by which they operate by. And then beyond that, that's where the rules go however they need to go. But yes, it is constitutionally protected for the House and Senate to create the rules by which they govern themselves by every day.
Okay, you can do
number 3. I'll count it. Number 3.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
In the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, what do you say to that? I mean, I know we're all shocked and I'm speechless, but I mean, literally, what do we say to that? And why hasn't somebody before us said, oh, we got to fix this now? I mean, do you follow what I'm saying?
And I mean, I believe the rule books for both the House and Senate are on the respective websites. Like, I know I can get to a link that you can view and download them. So I think anybody can get on there, peruse those. I mean, like, skim through those and just take a look at how some of this stuff is worded and the different provisions. I mean, it's a lot, and that's also by design.
Well, yeah, that's where we are right now. The more laws that you have pressing down on top of your head, the more likely you are to break the rules, which gives the government then the opportunity to remove you from the freedom population.
Which is why I tried to amend one rule at the beginning of session. It was just one.
Yeah.
And it was to make so every final passage of a bill, when you vote on it on the floor, is recorded for everybody to go back and look in the journal and see it. But amendments and other things that get proposed and voted on are not by default recorded in the journal for people to see. And today, you've got to get 6 or 7 people to stand with you and say, I want a recorded vote, in order for that to happen. So my rule amendment was, I don't care about 6 or 7 other people. If I want to vote recorded, I should have the ability. I represent 40,000 people back home. However many thousands voted me into this place. I don't need affirmation from somebody else in the chamber here to get something recorded. That, obviously, we saw the outcome of that and how that didn't go over very well at all.
But, it makes the point that it makes the point, I think, probably 100%, that we just literally have been disengaging from this thing that we call politics, as though But Michael, that's what we were talking about that one time about the propaganda about politics and religion. Remember?
Yeah. Well, and also all our politics are geared towards the president and all this fiasco, whatever distractions up in Washington. So, if we're so busy and look how worked up people get over a single tweet, from someone in Washington, rather than getting a video cut on a bill, here in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 1,000%.
So, Representative Shaw, I'm trying to figure out how to answer this question because I know you know the answer to this question, which is why you're doing what you're doing. Do you think that the people have forgotten what it means to be free?
I think everybody has gotten comfortable with turning the cheek a couple of times and then finally just saying forget it, because it is, politics is meant to be somewhat hard, right? I mean, especially if we're talking about passing law, like, yeah, that shouldn't be an easy process, but people have gotten comfortable and complacent with this notion that they don't have any power in the process, that it doesn't matter what they say and what they do, that building is going to operate however they want to. And the fact is, this session proved a very, very strong argument against that narrative, that the people in my district and elsewhere have been applying pressure and showing up and making phone calls and sending emails and getting into the committee rooms and getting on the floor or in the chamber gallery. That has happened. And again, I can't compare it to previous years, but from what I've been told with people that have been in their seats for longer than I have, they have not witnessed this kind of involvement and pressure in a long time or ever since they've been in the legislature. And it's made a difference. I mean, the fact that we even have gotten some of these bills to the point that they are today, this late in the game, in the session, and I call it a game, it is largely a game, and it's stupid, but that would not have happened in years past. It wouldn't happen. It's only because people actually say, you know what, I'm fed up with it, and I'm going to do everything that I can to do something about it, and it's been working. Now, take that and magnify it and multiply it, and let's see what happens, right? It'll be incredible if we can maintain this momentum going into next session as well, and to continue to grow the number of people that are getting involved. I think you'll see a much different legislature in the next year or 2 or 3.
I'm going to play this one more time. I'm going to add this to the stage and play this one more time.
The chair sees a quorum. The Energy Committee will come to order. Little housekeeping, unless you got press credentials, there'll be no video on. This is online, so you can get your video there.
I wanted to put that. Well, I'm sorry. Go, Michael.
I was just going to say, maybe this offends somebody or not. I don't really care. Maybe he's the committee of that energy chair because such a blowhard. Maybe that's why.
I do. Part of the reason why I did want to do that again is because of the fact that I think when people see that, I think people hopefully, that's why I just kept this one little section. If you don't have time to watch 5 seconds, I'm not sure what to do with you. And if you don't have time to share 5 seconds, I'm not sure what to say to you. But if that would get out and go viral, and I think it's starting to, if that would get out and go viral, I think people, even people who hadn't been involved, would say, wait a minute, what?
Well, and keep in mind too, in the past, people that actually do stand up and stick their neck out, they're attacked and ridiculed and intimidated, and they don't feel like there's a lot of additional people behind them or standing shoulder to shoulder with them. So they're just like, well, forget it. Right. But there are, I mean, I don't know how many people are watching this morning, but take that and multiply it by a lot more. There is more people that are ready and willing and are standing in the gap and standing shoulder to shoulder with people right now than ever before, I think, at least in recent memory. And so that's what people need to be comfortable with, is there are other people that are willing to stick their neck out. And I mean, just get after it.
Yeah. What was it? Was it Adams who said you can't hang us all or something like that?
Yeah.
What was that quote? So hopefully somebody will come up with it. I just want to, this is a good question. So we need to get the Constitution changed. I mean, Shelley's right. How do we start?
It's a great question. I mean, there's obviously a couple of ways to go about that, but yeah.
Yeah. So we talked to Representative Stiegel about it one time, because we have to change the Constitution to remove the county's ability to tax our property. So because we've been, you know, I don't think this is the right verbiage. I don't think this is correct, but we have banged. That doesn't sound right. We have sounded the alarm over and over and over again, Michael and I have, about the fact that we don't own our own property, and the government will just come take it whenever they feel like it if we decide we don't want to pay for the crap that they're forcing us to pay for, right? And we would have to have a legislator to run a bill that would change the Constitution to prevent the county from levying that property tax, because we don't have a state property tax. We have a state income tax, but we don't have a state property tax. The Constitution allows counties to burden the citizens with removal of their property. So that has to be changed. So that's an excellent question. We've got to figure out how to make that happen. We need a voting system where everyone votes silently and then the vote is published, so they can't wait and watch how their buddies vote and then vote. And that's a really interesting comment, frankly, don't you think, Representative Shaw? Because I know when I was mayor, and I was just mayor of a teeny tiny town, I wasn't sitting in a well with a bunch of people standing over me, right? You better have your big boy panties pulled up, big girl panty, because it's tough to go no, or yes on those bills that people don't want, that you've got lobbyists out there going. I mean, the one time that we tried to get a bill with Saint Jet that would have pulled back the ability for OSSBA to train upcoming teachers in their woke nonsense, we had, I think, 8 or 12 OSSBA people standing literally in the gallery above the Senate floor, standing there like this. I mean, so you better have that rod in the backbone to go, nope, right? So it's hard, and it does affect. So yesterday on this wind turbine setback bill, Chairman Green voted, was the last person. They didn't go alphabetically. Chairman Green was the last person to vote. Well, what an easy vote. I mean, if you can see how everybody else voted, you just vote however it makes sense to vote.
And there's obviously fewer of them, so they do those voice votes on our side. We log into a committee site and push the button on our computer, or we raise our hand or what have you. But yeah, I mean, if we were all voting with kind of blind votes, if you will, you would see probably a dramatically different outcome in some of these votes, for sure. And that goes for the floor too. I mean, the floor tallies them up, before they close the vote on the board up there. So
why are we supposed to have a private vote when we go into the voting booth?
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know why they make you do all that, because they can publish. What Sandra said was correct. They can publish the votes after
Sure.
You voted. They don't have to put it up on the, on the big giant billboard.
True.
I think that's pretty interesting. I don't know much about how everything works. What Jim was saying about needing to be at the Capitol, like sitting upstairs in those chairs. And hey, Catherine's got a question for you. Answer away.
That is exactly what I'm talking about. Being in the chamber, in the gallery during floor session, so you can see real time how people are voting and what's being discussed. And maybe even more importantly than that is if you're still tracking certain bills that are important to you and your family or your neighbors or your community, be in the building before those legislators go on the floor that day to vote for it, and go visit them or set up appointments or what have you. I mean, I will tell you, in-person visits are always better than phone or email. It's a lot harder to ignore. I mean, it's a lot easier to ignore a phone call or an email than it is somebody standing in your office and asking for time. And you, I mean, that's just a fact. So I would just really encourage that. And I know how difficult that can be with people with jobs and everything else, but to the extent that you can make that happen, I would really, really encourage it. I mean, I had 7 people with this Hands Off My Land group that descended upon the Capitol a couple of days ago in my office for almost 30 minutes. And they wrapped the meeting on their own. I didn't cut them short or push them out or what have you, but we stood there and talked for almost half an hour. Obviously on way different sides of the argument when it comes to property rights and wind turbines and what have you. So very, very much encourage people to be there in person whenever possible.
Thank you for the question, Catherine. That was a great question. Thank you so much. Okay,
Yep.
Now I'm feeling like I better get through these in case we have some other ones. Julia says, has anyone mentioned the public-private money in the green industry? Does Oklahoma no longer believe in free market at all? Stop that and you stop all the problems. Well, shall we go back to Senator Murdoch's waxing eloquently on the freedoms of business to screw over the public?
Yep.
Different opinions is what causes good debate. See, this is one of the reasons I love John. I mean, he was a teacher, and so, I kind of gravitate to that anyway. But I mean, I can't imagine this happening, Representative Shaw, but at some point in time, you and I may be on an opposite side of a discussion.
Sure.
I would guarantee you that if you and I suss that out, one of us is going to have a change. One of us might possibly have a change, right? But I can virtually guarantee you for a fact that if we don't have that discussion, neither one of us are going to have the incentive to make a change.
And that's what I've reinforced with people multiple times over. I mean, there could be 15, 20 issues. And if we align on all 15 and 20, like exclusively, and I mean, that's a little crazy to think that we would. There's going to be an issue or two here or there in varying levels of significance or of importance to one person or the other. And yeah, I mean, after we discuss and debate that other person may come around and share a similar opinion afterwards, or we may not, but we can at least admit that we had the conversation and debate and we're firm in our convictions and in our stance on that issue. And so, that's where, there's been this concern that people, legislators are being attacked over a certain issue or what have you. And it's like, let's look at it by issue. I mean, we should never paint somebody as being just a terrible representative or senator, across the board. Let's look at it by issue and celebrate the times that they align with us on certain issues, and indiscriminately call balls and strikes on everything else. That's what it's balls and strikes every day. I don't care what the topic is, whether it's procedure or rule or law and bill language. It's just balls and strikes.
Well, I think, yeah, if a bill passes the floor and goes to the opposite side committee, all those committee members voting it down should be required to speak and give a reason why. Ew. I don't see why that's a bad idea at all.
Yeah.
Oh, but you know what they're going to say, Representative Shaw? We don't have time for that kind of thing. Do you understand how many bills we have to get through this committee?
Yeah.
We're out in May. And by the way, praise the Lord.
Great.
That's all. I mean, because, uh-oh. I'm trying not to, get my blood pressure up because somebody will comment on it. The point of the matter is that you can't. Was it it was Gann's bill. Marvin will tell me. I think it was Gann's bill that said basically everybody should get at least 3 bills from their constituency heard.
2.
Was that what?
2 bills, and it was
2.
Gann's rules package. Yeah.
Okay. Gosh, that sounds like a horrible thing. That's just horrible. What? And if you say 2 bills, that's still even less than the 75 million that they've gone through right now. So it's not about the number of bills then, Representative Shaw, is it?
Not particularly, no.
Okay. So we have to take this federal if our state. No, I'm still going to say NIMBY. What does NIMBY mean? Not in my backyard. So we start in our backyard and we tell them NIMBY, right? Do they get to create those rules at the time and only towards certain people? How is this not discrimination? You're going to have to call out Marvin because now he's taking credit for you.
I guess I did get the third one there. I think Sandra gave me an assist on number 2. Dorn almost got an assist on number 4.
So the good old club. Yeah, that's probably a truth. Okay. So they may be able to make rules. That doesn't give them the authority to violate the laws that have been codified. But you were making that point. Make the point again that you made earlier. About the fact that they make the laws so that they can say.
Yeah. I mean, if it's ingrained in the Constitution that we as a legislature had the ability to make the rules by which we govern ourselves day to day, which is part of the lawmaking process, I mean, that's just ripe for issues and deception and corruption and everything else that you want to call it.
Okay. I don't know who this person is. Do you know who that person is?
No, she's not reputable or
she might be a troublemaker.
Yeah.
You hang me now, but I'm not alone. There are 200 million of us. You can't hang us all.
I guess she found the quote that you were looking for earlier.
She did. Thank you. We love you for that. Thank you very much. And it sounds like Russian, something that the Russian would say. Okay. We have so many. We have so many comments. I mean, and they're great comments, but we're already at 1:30 and I don't know if we're going to get them all in here, which stinks because we've got so many good comments. The goal is to overwhelm the everyday American to the point that they can't participate. I had to put that on because and that's the other thing too. They make us sick. So then we get sick and we can't, it's all a big circle that I used to think to myself. And part of it was before I met Michael. I used to think that some of this stuff was conspiracy theory. And then stupid Michael kept sending me this stuff and then going, look at this. Look at this. And I was like, dang it. Stop screwing up my worldview.
Your book. Don't forget your book.
Which book? Oh, your book that you're the worst thing you ever did to me.
Yeah. The Killing of Uncle Sam. Rodney Howard Brown.
So really Michael is to blame for Jenny's overall disposition.
Yes.
Only recently. Only very, very recently.
Only recently. Okay, that's fair.
Oh, this is when a governmental license is required to hunt, own a pet, have a yard sale, run a lemonade stand, the people have indeed forgotten how to be free. I don't think that people understand that if they're going to make you get a license to cut someone's hair, they're out of control because they're monkeying with your ability to make a livelihood. What is your property? Your livelihood, the money that you make off of your own back. Excellent point.
And not to chase the rabbit too much, but real quick, every single state agency is run like a for-profit business. Now there's some fiscal discipline and responsibility and, you know, in what have you, that should be inherent in every state agency, but their overall approach to their service to the people of Oklahoma is to grow their organization as much as possible, which means asking for more money every single time, hiring more people into the organization, and wasting money on people and programs within their agency that actually don't deserve government taxpayer dollars whatsoever.
Or raising fees.
In raising fees. And so just on the livelihood piece of how that impacts our day to day, that is killing our state with our taxpayer dollars, because they are operating every single agency like a business, and all they're trying to do is grow and increase value in the business.
I was just talking to somebody who's been in government a long time this morning, and she was telling me that just since we had the last speaker, that so many things have come built into the legislature that she's just seen that are control issues, that are control switches. Not being able to file your own bills. I mean, she had a list. And I think that it's important to understand, and I think Catherine Ann, who had commented before, would agree with this. If we don't stop it when we see it starting, it's not going to stop. Or if it does stop, there's going to be a lot of bloodletting to get it to stop.
Wait, I just had that same conversation with two other new members yesterday. I mean, when you open that spigot and you create this new agency, new funding vehicle for whatever program, the ability to turn that off is incredibly difficult.
Which is why we say you don't let government grow in the first place, because and I don't think people understand this concept. But I'm sure you do. So what happens if you fall on hard times and I come over and I give you chicken dinner? And then the next night I come over and give you a chicken dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next night I give you chicken dinner, but then I can't the next night. Where's my chicken dinner? I didn't make anything tonight because she was going to bring me chicken dinner.
Mm-hmm.
We seem to believe that human beings can change, and individually they can change. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ can change anybody.
Amen.
Right? However, without Jesus Christ, human nature is immutable. Human nature is immutable. Human nature will go back to the Bible and how many people we killed, just killing each other. I mean, it's all about power, and money is what brings power. So usually we default to the money end, but somehow people have this idea, and I think liberals are especially bad about this, but people are good. They're just good, you know, and if they say they're going to do something, they're going to do it. So that's not the way it works. If you don't have Jesus, the chances of you being a quote unquote good person, that's tough. I mean, that's like a 1 in 10, you know? I mean, and if you don't have good people around you helping you to, you know, like you just correcting me a minute ago, all these people who correct me when I need to be corrected, that's what we need. Mm-hmm. That's what we should desire, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. I'll say, Jenny, I think, you know, between you and I and our show, I mean, we probably err a little bit to the side of doom and gloom, you know, more than happy roses and everything else. But at the same time, pre-COVID, could a guy like Jim unseat a Wallace?
Oh, fair
Pre-COVID.
enough.
I think things, and Jim kind of mentioned it before, I think, it takes longer for us to really get our feet under us, to really get going. I mean, that's just how the grassroots is. I mean, it's hard to be grassroots, but we are. I mean, Jim is in there. Jim, even though he's being shot down, in every single direction, he's showing just how bad that swamp really is. And I think, we are going to make a change, like you said, Jim, in the next 2-3 years. I mean, we could literally have a pretty different looking, place down there at the Capitol. I truly believe that. I think people are getting activated. And just like we've talked about before, Jenny, on this, could we have had this show, maybe pre-COVID, maybe, maybe not. But times are changing. People are there. There's more of us that are really starting to realize, hey, we live in just literal tyranny. And I think, a lot of people are starting to realize that they're kind of getting out of their comfort zone of that every day. Just, give me my bread and circus. They actually want to do something. So I think we have some forward momentum here.
So why do you think we can't get press credentials? Because I've been looking, and Julia, thank you so much for going to bat for Rope in the comments, because I've been just having to scan. Yes, Rope almost got press credential years ago. I don't remember why we didn't. I don't remember why we didn't either. But I mean, we would qualify because we've been talking about. I mean, compared to. Sorry.
Here's my opinion of that. Okay. Why do we have to have press credentials in the first place? It's the people's house. We're the people. We should be able to see, watch, do whatever we want. If it's contained in the open meetings, whatever. However, they should play by the same rules. But if we get enough people like Jim in there, there will be no more press credential administrative state rules. It'll just be you're here, you do whatever you want. I mean, that we got to get new people in there to take that administrative state down and change if we can change the Constitution on top of it, that would be even better.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a guy from Vote News, I'm not sure who that is, be followed around the Capitol for asking questions about SB 430. He filed a complaint against the head of Capitol Police. They try to intimidate us. And Sandra did file or is going to. Did you file yet? A complaint against Senator Green. And so I don't know how that's going to turn out, but we're going to, and that same Danna Jo girl said Soviet partisans were members of resistance movements that fought a guerrilla war against Axis forces during World War II in the Soviet Union, the previously Soviet occupied territories of interwar Poland in 1941, 1945, and Eastern Finland. I thought that might have been kind of where that was going. People have so little time to be active in politics. That's why we elect representatives. If there are structural problems, then we need a ballot petition to change the state constitution. But here's the thing, though. I don't care if you have time or not. I mean, I don't have time. I'm sorry, Representative Shaw. Do you have time? Don't you have like a ranch or something?
Something, yes.
Wait, I just thought you watched television, kind of.
Oh, that's that. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it's not as though any of us have time to do this. But again, and I will return to Ben Franklin. If you can keep it, you can't keep it because you're too busy to.
Well, it's really, I'll rephrase that, Jenny. It's not even busy because we're all busy. It doesn't matter who you are. We're all majorly busy. It's priority management. Where are our priorities? That's really, where do we spend our time? Because our priorities are kind of not in alignment. We need to rearrange those priorities because, I mean, like anybody, I mean, I've got 5 kids. I'm the sole earner in my family. I run multiple businesses. I mean, sometimes I don't even get home till 9 or 10 o'clock at night. I mean, but we have to do it. I mean, you just have to make it a priority to make a change in this government.
Well, and I do believe, I mean, we have over 100 people on here today live on a Friday morning at 9 a.m.
Amen.
And I think part of the reason why is because people aren't getting this from the legacy media. And,
No.
and this, they're not under. Who explains any of this? Jim, how many times, I'm sorry, Representative Shaw, how many times have you been, I'm going to bang that drum till it breaks. How many times have you been interviewed by legacy media?
Press credentialed media.
Actual reputable press credentialed media. I mean, honestly, multiple times. Some of them, the interviews never saw the light of day, or out of a 3 to 5 minute recording, they took 10 seconds out of context, right? So, you know, in totality, hardly anything.
So where are you getting any airtime?
Right here. And I have received more airtime, obviously, with you guys, but if we're contrasting with the legacy media here in Oklahoma, I've had more national airtime than I have with the people locally.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's outrageous.
I hope people are understanding it's outrageous, because we've had, I mean, lots of people on this morning. Tammy says First Amendment, we're all journalists. This is good. This is going to be my favorite. Hey, are you looking at this, Michael? Remember what we talked about, the t-shirt shop?
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah.
We need to use the meme that's out there. I don't know if I can find the meme, but we need to use the meme that's out there right now and then put communism isn't fun anymore under it. I'm sorry, I'm having to scroll through. It's a Senate leadership. It's a Senate leadership that needs to be changed. The House does not have the same rule on videoing. The House has the same ability, but it's not using that ability to be tyrannical yet, because I think their whole process, and correct me if I'm wrong, Representative Shaw, I think their whole process of instituting a second committee is tyrannical in and of itself. In the House.
That's been, yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of argument about that, and those that have been there for a long time say that it's a good thing, and we're able to filter better on the bills, and you're compressing two different sets of meetings and votes on the same bill in the same amount of time that otherwise was just one committee before. I mean, it's designed to shove bills through the process as quickly as possible, or to set bills aside and not let them see the light of day more easily, because you've now got two layers of vagueness to filter through to figure out what happened.
Didn't we talk about, I'm not sure if it was you and I that talked about this, finding the agenda and the schedule for the oversight committee meeting?
We did talk about that, getting the alerts on the email notifications for that. Yeah.
I haven't been getting them. I still haven't, and I'm signed up.
You're not reputable enough. I'm going to keep saying it.
You're blacklisted, Jenny. You're blacklisted.
I like that. I'm not reputable.
You change your name to Jenny Blacklist.
I like this, though, Jenny. If Jim represents us and is our equal, we can call him Jim. I just like to make sure people understand. It's more aimed at the legislators, at the legislature. I'm sorry, they're all a body. I should be calling them the legislature. Yes, citizen journalists are us. Okay. Oh gosh, there's so many. You guys have got great comments. It's just hard to get them all on. I'm sounding like a committee chair. Now I'm going to go back and put every comment in.
One question, one follow-up, and then to the next one. Is that what you're doing now?
That's right. Now I'm going to have to just to make sure we get them all in.
You better check. You better check Rumble too. Make sure don't miss any comments over there. If there
No, we
are
haven't
some.
had any comments. I mean, we have some people on there, but again, when you start out screwed up, Rumble screwing you up, it's kind of hard. Oh, Lisa, we want merch. Cindy says Christopher Stephanie Davis probably missing when certain ones talk out of both sides of their mouths and they don't want to be seen or heard by the public. If they silence the mic and then it's repeated from anybody in the room, they can, that's so true. That's so true. I mean, they can just say, well, that's hearsay, you know. If someone was coming to our porch and robbing us regularly, we would stop them. But we let the mobsters at 2300 North Lincoln rob us for anything they can come up with. It's not robbing, according to Senator Murdoch. It's freedom.
Yeah.
Well, it's not robbing because it's codified in law for them to be able to do it.
Oh,
No.
That's right. And we followed the law.
I want to make a comment on that mic situation. Even as hard as I am on school boards all the time, Jenny, the school boards do not turn the mic off at any point, and they don't even turn the video off. Even when they go back into executive session for an hour, they still let the video run in the room with the mic on the whole time.
Well, that's interesting. But then if you want to get something off of that video, you literally have to just
you got to scrub through it. You have to go through it. But I actually addressed the Edmond School Board on that, and they said they're not going to turn it off when they go into executive session. They're going to leave it on, and the whole thing just stays on. They think it's better for transparency. I mean, that's literally what they told me.
But transparency would not be having executive session.
Well, yeah, obviously. But I'm just saying the point is, even at the local school board level, they're not cutting the mic and stopping the videos or anything like that.
I see your point. Tammy says, and this is a good question because I know that they say silence your phones, but I don't remember seeing it posted anywhere where it says you can't record.
In the room, like physically in the room.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there is signage outside the door or inside the room that says that.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the big, the fourth floor Senate committee room, hearing room. I don't remember seeing it. Now I do know that on the floor, so in the gallery for the House floor and on the gallery for the Senate side, it says you must silence cell phones.
Yeah. They do have some protocol up there in the gallery for sure. I don't know the ins and outs of that, quite honestly, but.
Oh, well, Catherine said when I was in those green chairs up above listening years ago, I was told no video. Julie says, I agree with Michael. We shouldn't need press credentials, but I'm tempted to make some kind of organization together that would qualify all of us. Maybe. That wasn't speechless. That was just me giggling. And then, of course, do it. Okay, well, we're running up on 144. Might read that out loud. I'll just leave that up there. We're running up on 144. Kind of closes out here. I mean, your thoughts, your exhortations, your learned lessons, whatever you want to throw at us. Floor's open.
The floor's open. Are we gaveling in? No, I first of all, I love the dialogue with you guys, and really appreciate what you all do with rope. I mean, it's a big deal. And to your point earlier, I mean, people are not getting the honest truth about what's happening down there and all around because the legacy media is not covering it in that way. Now I want to reinforce, like, yeah, there's been frustrating parts throughout session and how this process has worked. And, you know, obviously it is dramatically different from my former life of co-owning a business and having certain disciplines and things like that in running a business that most of us have that are not mimicked inside that building. But I want to reiterate how encouraging it is to see all of these people engaging today with the comments and getting involved in. And again, the number of people that have stayed involved throughout session. I mean, everybody always spikes during campaign season and everybody's super involved and super engaged. And then a lot of it, you know, trails off after that. For me personally, it's been such a blessing and an encouragement to have so many people continue to stay involved through session, because that's where the rubber really meets the road. And so I just can't thank everybody enough for that. And really just want to encourage people. I know it's been a long session for a lot of us, but we're coming up on just the last couple of weeks here. And then really the thing that impacts us probably the most, which is the budget, will just kind of slide in in the last, 3 to 4 weeks before we gavel out at the end of May. So there maybe we'll focus more on that in the future too, and see where the dollars are actually going. But no, just thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Well, and I do want to, you make a really good point there. And so we could probably close out with this, because I think part of the reason why people neglect to get involved is they don't feel the compression of tyranny. It hasn't happened to them. They haven't been told they can't get their license renewed, or they can't video in a public space, or so they don't feel the compression of tyranny. And so they just kind of become, they see, and it's the frog in the boiling pot scenario.
Yep.
You feel it so little and so incrementally at a time that you get to a steady state where well, it can't get worse than this. And then you don't notice it getting worse until all of a sudden now we don't have an ability to speak out in a public meeting. So I think what we need to do is make sure people understand where tyranny is coming in. Number one, tyranny is you can't video in a public meeting. And I'm going to tell you that as a housekeeping measure at the beginning of my committee meeting. So that's one. But you just touched on the budget. And what they're going to tell you is we've already got the website up and running. It's the most transparent process ever. Right? Tell me how those things get in the budget. Does anybody know? Sometimes budget committee hearings are held, and they will hear budget committee for certain things, right? And they'll say, like the OSDE, Walters has to show up for the meeting. We need to have X number of dollars. Here's my PowerPoint showing what we spent. Here's what we have. Some of those things happen. What about tax credits? What hearing do we get on tax credits? Any that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of.
What about individual line items for education, whether it's higher ed or K-12? So when they tell you that we have the most transparent budget process ever, all you have to do is log on and see that we're putting these things in there. If you don't stop and say to yourself, well, but I don't know where this number came from. So where did this number come from? Then they've got you. Then you've gotten propagandized. You're the frog in the boiling water. To believe their nonsense, which is this is all a transparent process. Why are the most powerful people in the House and Senate the appropriation chairs? A good question, isn't it? So I think you make a really excellent point. You just described the downfall of California bit by bit, degree by degree, and then suddenly it was too late. I believe she's doing, oh, yes, we are doing another one today. Thanks for bringing that up. Yes, we are having Gabe Woolley on here at 1:00 this afternoon. I like the way Jim Shaw thinks. I wish we had 100 more like him. Wednesday and Fridays at 9 a.m. right here live. Please be with us. And, you know, we've got so far saying, you know, thank you and thank you all. So if you have not thanked Jim, please send him a card or a note.
Representative Shaw, Jenny.
I'm sorry. Oh. Thank you for correcting me, Representative Shaw. Yeah, but in all honesty, I mean, thank you for what you're doing. And you know, and you said something a minute ago. And you said, well, thank you for having me on, and thank you for having I think you missed the whole point. Thank you for being on here. How many people are going to do that? How many of our legislators would ask, hey, can I come on your program? How many people, and I don't even ask some of them because I can't imagine they would come on. But here is your open-ended invitation. If you're a legislator and you would like to be featured on our program, give me a shout out. We're happy to have you on. We'll give you airtime. Great Green, you want to come on? Explain yourself? Give me a buzz. We're not like the legislature and going to keep people off. It's whether or not you want to be on.
Well,
you want to be here. And
I do, because you're allowing me to procrastinate and not, you know, until I have to read bills the rest of the day. So you guys are much more entertaining.
Well, thank you again. We can't thank you enough. Thank you just for, you know, taking the call, being up there. I know it's been a rough session.
Well, I'm taking all the arrows also, Jenny.
It's all good.
Yeah. I mean, we just can't appreciate you enough. So thank you so very much. And thank you for being on with us. Now go get to reading those bills.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. We do appreciate you, and have a blessed weekend.
You too. God bless you guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye. Oh, I really like that man so much.
Yeah. Hey, I think I got your quote.
Okay. Which one?
I gotta find it in a second.
John says, I wouldn't watch some of them.
Oh yeah, you would. You want to maybe see some accountability pointed towards them.
Boy.
Here you go. Benjamin Franklin, Jenny. Maybe you're thinking of the Benjamin Franklin.
I think it was the Benjamin Franklin. I like the other one that Dan has shared too. I like that one too because it's very important. But yes.
We must all hang together, or assuredly we'll hang separately.
That's correct. That's correct. It's like
that
we were talking about.
That may be. I'm sure there's a ton of those. That may be the one you were thinking of.
No, I think that's exactly which one I was thinking of. But again, I appreciate Danna, you know, giving us that quote because that one was very good. Okay, so we will be having Gabe Woolley, Representative Gabe Woolley, on at 1:00 this afternoon. I really suggest that you try to make it so that you can see him. Next Wednesday, the 30th, we're going to have nationally known business owner and speaker Robert Bortons with us on again. We've had him on before, but he's done what I always had hoped to do, and I'm so glad that he's doing this. Get a national forum for the pushback of this nonsense that we need the government to send our kids to private school. And he's a homeschooler. He runs Classical Conversations. His mom started that years and years ago. He's a graduate of that program. My kids are not quite graduates, but they all went through it at one point in time. It's an excellent program. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. If I had kids to start over, I would do the same exact thing I did with them again and start them at the bottom and get them going, because it's a phenomenal program. And certainly cheaper than any private school than you can imagine. And you get to go be on a campus with other kids who are doing the same program. So it's not like you're doing it from your computer. It's not happening. So he's going to be on to give us his arguments as to why the government needs to quit giving money to people to put their kids in private schools because public schools are so bad. So if you want to have that argument, and you want to hear that argument, come on, bring it. If you don't like that idea and you think we're all full of it, get in the comments. I'll put you on. So, and if I won't, Michael will. So come on. So that'll be 9 o'clock on Wednesday. And then we're going to have our friend Spino come on Friday. And you guys will remember he talked to us about Lincoln and gave us some really unsavory, interesting information about Lincoln that only Michael was aware of.
And I have a special shirt. I have a special Lincoln shirt just for Spino when he comes on.
I'm telling you, get with Lisa and get our t-shirt shop going. He's going to be on to talk about Helen Keller. So if you'd like to learn a little bit about our favorite Marxist socialist, Helen Keller, join us next Friday at 9 a.m. Because Andrew Spino will be on to talk about that. And then, yes, thank you, Marvin. I like that. What social media platforms are we on? We are on X. We've got a bunch of people on X this morning. So hi, wow, lots of people on X. So hi, all of you people on X. We appreciate you tuning in. We are also on LinkedIn Live. We're also on Rumble Live. We're on YouTube Live. We're on Facebook on the Rope page. And we're also on Facebook on my personal page. So we have plenty of social media outlets. So if you can't find us on one, you can find us on another. I've made sure they're all changed over. If you just go to X and search Rope Report, we'll come up. Same thing with Facebook, same thing with LinkedIn, all of that stuff. So please
they're all
make
linked
sure.
on the website. Aren't they all linked on the website too? Just at rope.org?
Yes, they're all linked on the website. Yes. And you have that
rope2.org.
Right. Yep, right there. Michael and I both have it in our I know all the stuff about Lincoln and other founding bankers. Yes. Oh, yes, the bankers. Again, what do we need to read, Michael?
The Killing of Uncle Sam by Rodney Howard Brown.
Gotta
maybe
read that.
Just bring it up real quick, just so everybody can see the cover.
Yes, and go to rope2.org and you can find all of that stuff. And if you're on rope2.org, by the way, once you scroll a certain amount of time, it will come up and ask you to put in your email. And if you want to receive the articles as I or our partner, our writer, Shane Smith, as he gets them up and I get them up, they'll come to you directly if you sign up for it. So this is the one that you need.
If you want to know anything about the history of the money system and the banking system and the dollar and the hegemony of just massive crony capitalism and the effect that it's had on this country, this book will just blow you away.
It will. It will. And you really need to, I think if you would read it, I listened to it while I was doing chores. So if you say, I don't have time to sit down and read it, because I think the book is that, maybe. It's not small.
Well, it's 500 pages. It's 528 pages. The book is.
Yeah. And I think
I have the book and the audio book.
Yeah. And I think it took 22 or 24 hours of listening to get it finished. But as I've said before, I listen and then I buy the book and I make notes in my Audible account for different things that I'm reading, like the narrator will say something and I'll make a note in it. And then I take that note and I go back in the actual book that I bought. And then I underline it so that I can keep it. I did that with Bonhoeffer.
Yeah.
This is another one. You can see all the tabs in there. So yeah, and I listened to that, but then read it. I mean, went to the book and found all of the places, so that I'd have them.
Yeah.
And
Julia,
Julia,
what was so surprising to me in that book was all that involvement with Cecil Rhodes. And then, now how we celebrate all the in academics,
scholar.
all the Rhodes scholars. I mean, if you really know the history of that guy, I mean, you wouldn't want to be associated with anything that has to do with him.
No, him and all his little boys. Yes.
Yeah,
Nasty
pretty
individual.
wild.
Yes. Okay, so I think Julie's going to get us out of here.
That's right.
It's your next t-shirt, Michael. It's your
That's
next
right.
one. Thank you so much. You guys have been an outstanding, wonderful audience. Don't you love our audience, Michael?
Yeah, fantastic.
We just have a fantastic audience. We thank you so much for tuning in. Please spread the word about the podcast, but spread the word about what's going on. You guys, we are now really, I think, full force into tyranny mode in our own red state legislature. And if you don't understand that and don't wake other people up to that fact, we're not going to get enough people to be able to push back. And we can do it. Representative Jim Shaw is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
We can do it, but you got to participate.
And I think it's kind of important to note, Jenny, you've been kind of a watchdog over the legislature for a long time. Probably 20 years?
Not enough to get press credentials.
Well, but either way, in your own opinion, you've said this multiple times. This is probably the worst group of them that you've ever seen.
Yeah.
So we're only,
and I'm not going to say
be going downhill.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say group of them because we have some really good ones that are in there. But I think overall, the majority is the worst that I've seen.
Now, as far as just a quick definition of them pushing tyranny, taking our rights, wasting our money, all of the above, like what would be the criteria for that, you think?
D, all of the above.
Yeah.
I don't even think they know. Most of them don't even know why they're there. They literally believe that they're a Chamber of Commerce tool, that all of this is about business.
Yeah.
And if your kid can't if we can't put your kid into a job, then there's no reason for us to be here. Because, we can't have people leaving the state. I mean, it's the most degenerative, backward, unfreedom-like thought process that these people have. And if you don't believe me, get on and look at that video from the other day. Well, you can't see it. You'll have to take our word for it. Certainly Representative Shaw and Sandra and Robbie and all of those people who were there yesterday, there were more lobbyists in the room than citizens.
Yeah.
That's not the way government should be run. And that is probably the biggest indicator of a tyrannical government. Yeah. It's not working for the people. It's working for the people who have the dollars.
Well,
I will reiterate Senator Casey Murdoch's big speech about freedom and how we have to have freedom I'll put it up on the website at some point today so you can see it. Was, 4 or 5 minutes. And it was all about the freedom of business to put the little guy in their place, essentially. So there you have it.
Well, just as an example of that administrative state, you should link that video, that prior podcast we did, where you went down to the session where they were literally blackballing Jim. And you just happened to be you were videotaping that. And there was no other legacy media, no one else reporting on that, no one else doing that. I mean, that's just another perfect example of how they operate down there independently from what we think they do.
Well, and you've made a good point with that too, because I forgot about that. Because if you'll remember in the video that I did, the live video where I basically broke all of that, if I took the video feed from the Capitol and interspersed it with my live video from there, and you can tell you could not see on the live video what I was showing you on my video from
Yeah.
inside there. So any argument that, well, we already have it recorded or it's already being put out live is completely a bald-faced untruth because of and I won't say lie because it's not a lie, but it's an untruth in the sense that no, we're not being shown everything that's happening. The only way you can see that is if you're there live.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, we probably better get off of here because I got to get ready to entertain Representative Gabe Woolley here at 1 o'clock. So be
Yeah.
sure to come
And
back with us for that.
I will try to make it if I can. I'm not sure if I can make that 1 o'clock.
I know. Hope so. All right. Thanks again, everybody, for being with us. We sure do appreciate you. If you're not back with us at 1, shame on you, but still have a great weekend. And we'll see you again next Wednesday. Bye.